tri-class, we have Miss Taylor Monks from Rama, Colorado. While she's showing, I'd like to welcome our judge, Mr. Ben Williams from Lyons, Kansas. Ben owns and operates the Diamond W Club Lamb with his family. Ben has coached livestock judging teams for over 10 years at Hutchinson Community College and is currently serving as an ag instructor and livestock operating coordinator. Ben is the proud father of 2 boys and who enjoys showing sheep, goats, and pigs. So we would like to welcome Ben. My seniors who should be waiting are Sage Massey, Anderson McWhorter, Brooke Mills, Eva Stretcher, and Riley Tunick.
Well, good evening and welcome. I certainly appreciate the opportunity to come over to the state of Colorado. I'm looking forward to enjoying the evening and sorting through the goats and the sheep tonight. County fairs are always a special time for a lot of young people and can tend to be the highlight of a summer for a lot of folks. And this one's probably no different. I think we have a great way to get started here with what you call the small fry division. The young lady has got this big goat out here. She's doing a nice job. We just want to continue to encourage participation in these young kids that aren't 4-H age yet and get them a little taste and a little bit of experience, and hopefully they continue to come back and show when they're able to be in regular 4-H, and we certainly look forward to having her come back next year and continue to get involved in goats. And she also says she shows sheep, and so hopefully this really sparks an interest for her over the next several years. Let's give her a nice round of applause here. Congratulate her for coming out.
Okay, so now we would like to introduce our senior market goat showmanship. We are starting with Riley Tunick, Addison McWhorter, Brooke Mills, Sage Massey, and Eva Stretcher. On deck waiting should be McCrae Lown, Logan Massey, Sadie McWhorter, Candy Monks, Peyton Monks, Landon Offit, Caleb Pfeiffer, Jamie Schaefer, Lilia Tunick, and Reed Hegwood.
I think a really nice way to get started with our showmanship portion here of the show. We've got 5 young people coming out and competing. And those along ringside, if you haven't shown goats before, you might be able to pick up here pretty quickly in the show that sometimes they just kind of have some attitudes. They've got some personalities, kind of a mind of their own, really from time to time, that can make the showmanship portion of a show a little challenging, even if we have some good showmen. And we see that maybe come into play a little bit here with a few young people. And we just, like to have that partnership of the showman and the animal, kind of working together. You can look down the line and see lots of different styles and how the young people are electing to try to get them shown. Personally, I have some preferences when it comes to showmanship. I like the young people to really kind of get their bodies out in front just a little bit more, trying to get a brace on those animals, especially when I come in to handle. And then obviously still kind of work on getting those feet and legs set up just a little bit. Make sure those back feet are square, that the animal essentially just looks their best. And that's the job of a good showman, is to get their animal to look their very, very best. Some differences that I see in the young people. The young lady up here on my far right is one that I think does a very good job of getting her animal to cooperate and work with her and stand, gets those back feet set pretty square. She does a nice job of getting the head and the neck coming out of the top of the shoulder. Maybe she's, for me, just a little bit too far off on the side. I like to rotate her body a little bit more, see her left knee on the shoulder on the side of that goat, and cover up the front end just a little bit. I think that may help that particular animal continue to look his best. But in terms of having just some ability to get that one to stand and brace, I think she's doing a nice job there. The young lady that's right behind her, I think in terms of how she handles her front end and her body position, is the best in the class. I like how she gets her body position, and she gets her knees in front of that goat to be able to try to get a brace. The issue with this one is he's just not wanting to cooperate with what she's trying to do with him. But when she's able to get him set, I can tell that she's got an idea of what she wants to do and what she wants to accomplish. He's just not on the same page with maybe her tonight. The young lady here in the red shirt has got a big long wether here that she's showing, and I think does another pretty good job here of trying to get this one stretched out and to cooperate. Maybe just a little bit more consistency in terms of feet placement on this one throughout the drive. Once in a while we get those feet just a little out of place. I'd like to see you just get that one set square and be able to hold and keep them there the entire time. I think that'll help you just a little bit as well. Young lady coming next, a little bit tougher to get this one shown, right? A tall young lady. We've got a goat there that comes to her kneecap, and I can relate to that. That's a very difficult task that you have there, and I think you're doing the best you can there with that particular animal. It's probably one that just makes it a little bit more difficult to bring out in showmanship, but she's doing a nice job. Young person here on my far left as well, I think is probably doing a better job right now in this particular drive than what we did earlier in the lineup of trying to get the feet set up and correctly set, and we want to just see more consistency. I think a competitive job here to these 5 young people. I do have them lined up first all the way down through 5th. Go ahead and show them some appreciation here. Give them a nice round of applause.
In 5th place, we have Eva Stretcher. 4th place, Brooke Mills. 3rd place, Riley Tunick. Our reserve grand champion is Addison McWhorter, and our grand champion, Sage Massey. Congratulations, ladies. Okay, our intermediate class, we're going to start with Jamie Schaefer. Followed by Sadie McWhorter, Reed Hegwood, I'm sorry, girls. I just blinked out your names. We also have McCrae Lown, Logan Massey, Cody Monks, Peyton Monks, Landon Offit, Caleb Pfeiffer, and Lilia Tunick.
Well, before I tell you kind of what I see in this particular group of showmen, very, very competitive, a lot of quality, a lot of excellent showmen on down the line. Let's go ahead and give them a round of applause here before we kind of break them down a little bit. Really good group. I think a lot of depth, a fun age. We've got some young kids that are out here that are really working hard and being very, very competitive. I think it's clear that they spent a lot of time with these particular projects. They've done a nice job of getting them presented, and yet they still have some differences in terms of just their styles. And I think that's certainly okay. Every judge is going to maybe like and lean towards a little bit of a different style. I'm looking for somebody that is intense but yet is still smooth. It really works to get them set up, but maybe doesn't overdo it in terms of aggressiveness. We want kind of that, in my opinion, kind of a quiet confidence of working to get them set. Don't draw a lot of attention to yourself as a showman, but just work to get your animal shown off the best that we possibly can. I thought a pretty close decision. Really, the young lady in the green is going to end up winning this particular drive for me. I think one that maybe when she comes into the ring, I didn't necessarily just gravitate to quite as quickly as a few others, just from an intensity standpoint, but if you continue to study and watch the way that she works on getting that animal set up, I prefer maybe just the approach that she has. I think she takes it just a little bit slower to work on getting those feet and legs set right, maybe doesn't jerk on the goat quite as much as what we find in a few others, and takes the time to just get that one set, and then once it's set, it doesn't really move. She does a nice job with that, and again, a very good job of getting the neck coming out of the top of the shoulder instead of letting the head and neck kind of go a little bit too far forward. That's another thing there that I thought she did a really nice job of. Congratulations to you. You're going to win this particular division. Young lady in pink is certainly a competitor. She comes out here and just looks like she's, got the will to win, if you will, and I love that about her showmanship style. She is really aggressive, and in terms of getting a brace on one, there's not probably a young person in here that gets a harder brace and gets this one to go uphill better than what she does, and I like that about her. At the same time, I think probably what sorted you in second for me is as you kind of end up going off of the walk and get them into a side profile and start to work on your brace, I just ask you to take a little bit more time. Your first step there is to just pull up on that one to get into your brace. I'd encourage you to just take a breath, set a leg there if you can, and then get into it. Just a nickel smoother for me, and then maybe you'd end up in that first spot. But a competitive showman there, a fierce look in her eye, and I really like and appreciate that. Young man over here in the green, go ahead. Yeah, give her a nice round of applause. Young man in the green is doing a good job, too, a little bit like the one that wins in terms of just initial impression and demeanor. I think he's one here that just continues to work up for me as I study the way that he shows and what his approach is. From time to time, I get that view on this particular goat where those front feet in particular want to get too far up and out on him. I like to see those camped up underneath of that particular weather just a little bit more. Maybe just the way that one's built a little bit there in his front end makes it hard to just get him set ideally right there, and he's got to continue to work on that with that particular animal. If we could get that done just a bit more consistently, I think you have a chance to move up as well. Very good showman. Nice job to him as well. Young lady here that ends up in fourth. Another one here that's got a little bit of a different style compared to those top three, but a good style and one that may work for her. Really gets that nose up, almost straight up, looking at the tent, the top of the tent here on this particular goat. And I think there's times where it works for him, and then there's other times where that one just kind of looks like his weight isn't shifted enough to try to get that hard brace on him, and almost just kind of pulls back a little bit on you. And so that's probably a slight difference that I see there with that particular animal. Bit of a different style, but she's doing a nice job as well. The young lady that rounds out our top five is another one here that gets a nice brace on this weather and really gets a hard drive, kind of like the gal that ends up there in that second spot. He wants to get too stretched on her. Those back legs just get away from her a little bit too much from time to time, a little too stretched out. We want to keep those set just a little bit squarer. If he can do that and kind of keep his top line in him just a little bit more, then I think she can continue to work up. Awfully good showman there to be ending up in that fifth spot. Congratulations here to all these kids. Go ahead and give them a nice round of applause.
Congratulations. In 10th place, we have Reed Hegwood. 9th place, Caleb Pfeiffer. 8th place, Landon Offit. Sixth place, Logan Massey. Or I'm sorry, seventh place, Lilia Tunick. Sixth place, Logan Massey. Fifth place, Cody Monks. Fourth place, Sadie McWhorter. Third place, McCrae Lown. Second place in Reserve Grand Champion, Jamie Schaefer. First place, Grand Champion, Peyton Monks. And our junior market showmanship, we have Clara, and again, I apologize if I mispronounce, Clara Burig, Ashlyn Hegwood, and Paisley Erker. After our showmanship, we're going to go into our market classes, and we will start with our prospect class. So Landon and Brooke, be ready, followed by a class of Addison, Claire, Logan, and Jamie. We would like to take this time to thank all of our sponsors, especially our premier sponsors, Core Electric Cooperative and Maverick Broadband. Our gold sponsors, Farmers State Bank, Wagner Cat, Serenity at Wolf Creek Ranch, GMT Exploration Company, and Excel Energy. Our silver sponsors, 21st Century Equipment, Cypress Creek Renewables, Kraft Companies, Independence, Mountain View Electric Association, and Potestio Brothers Equipment. Thank you guys for all of your support at the county fair.
we get into a younger age division here, and 3 young ladies that come out and compete and are working with their projects and trying to just get a little bit more ring experience and try to continue to learn. And I am an instructor at heart, I guess, and try to use some teaching moments when they arise within a show and within a ring, and try to provide all 3 of them maybe just a few little pointers that they can make some immediate changes and make some improvements on when they're out here in the ring. A lot of it's about their hand placement, about where they're putting their knee and their leg and their front end and trying to get a brace out of these. And I'd encourage you to watch some of those other kids in the intermediate division, especially, and kind of see how some of those competitive showmen are doing some of those details, and just continue to learn and make some improvements here as you get more ring experience and more time. The 3 young ladies are all doing a very commendable job. I think just in terms of the ones that maybe put it together a little bit more ring awareness, I think is one of the main differences that we have here that separates our young lady here is going to be first compared to a few of the others. Come in, kind of just know where to go. This is our 4th class here of the evening, and so just kind of have an idea of how we work the ring. All of those things are important, and then continue to take a little bit of some coaching here and make some of those changes as you're showing, and you're making improvements already here as you're in the ring. So nice job to all 3 of these young ladies, and hope they continue to show and make some progress here. Give them a nice round of applause, and they're lined up in order.
We'd like to congratulate our 3rd place winner, Clara Bierig, our reserve grand champion, Ashlyn Hegwood, and our grand champion, Paisley Urker. Congratulations, ladies. All right, we're going to get ready and go to the main events. Again, we would like to thank our judge, Mr. Ben Williams from Lyons, Kansas. He is the owner and operator of the Diamond W Club Lamb with his family. He has coached livestock judging teams for 10 years at Hutchinson Community College and is currently serving as the ag instructor and livestock operating coordinator. Ben is the proud father of 2 boys, and they enjoy showing sheep, goats, and pigs. Welcome to Colorado, Ben. Okay, we're going to start off with our class of prospect goats. We have Mr. Landon Offit and Miss Brooke Mills. Waiting should be Addison, Clara, Logan, and Jamie.
All right, as we get going here on the market portion of the show, we've got 2 of them here that come in a little bit lighter and kind of in that designated prospect class. We've got 2 animals here that obviously probably still have quite a bit left in terms of a growth and maybe what they could be potentially on down the road. Between the 2, we've got the more traditionally marked wether here that's going to go ahead and lead the way comparably compared to the painted up goat. Just one that offers a little more shape to his rib. He's got more spread there to his top and loin, and just a little bit more shape shape there right out of his pins and to his lower leg there from the side. I think one that just offers just a little bit more power, just a little bit more natural dimension. The painted up one here that ends up in second, another one that I think is in relation to structure and correctness there of movement when you get this one out on the move is good in that regard. Just a little bit a ways yet from getting that potential endpoint on that particular animal. We just need to see more time and groceries on that one to be more competitive. Give these two kids a nice round of applause here as we get into the market show.
In second place is Landon Offit. First place, Brooke Mills. In our market first class, with weights between 66 and 69 pounds, we're going to have Addison McWara, Clara Beering, Logan Massey, Jamie Schaefer. We would also like to take this time to thank 40 Mile Feed, who have donated all of the shavings for our show rings this year, and for zebra lighting and production for our lights in the tent this year. So for all of our market shows this week, if you're not able to make it to the show or you have family, you can go to showbarnflix.com. Anyone at home can watch on this website or on Show Barn Flix Facebook or through the Elbert County Fair Facebook page. On deck for our next class should be Eva, McCrae, Sadie, and Thomas.
We get into our second class of market goats. The young lady's painted hip weather is one that sorts up fairly handily for me in this particular class, just in terms of quality and freshness and handle. This one separates himself and does so fairly easily. By far the freshest there to his touch. He's got a really nice shape there over his rack and loin, and still one that's pretty lean to the touch. I think just in terms of build and quality there from the side, when she's able to get him kind of set up, I think you can just kind of see that one still comes together simply with just the most quality. From there, I think a little bit more of a decision between second and third within this particular class. I guess if there were a pair, it would be this one. The one that ends up in the second spot, I think, is one I'm able to just get a little bit of a better view of in this particular lineup in class. One that's wide right there out of his upper hip. He's got some width and dimension there. As you study that one from behind to his base from a muscle standpoint, I think he's adequate in that regard. I maybe like to change him just a little bit when I get my hands on him right over his rack. Maybe not quite as just fresh to the touch, a little bit grayer, a little staler in terms of his hide, and just kind of that handle over his rack and a little flatter there in his forerib. But from there on back, I think he's acceptable from a muscularity standpoint and just able to get a little better read on him in this particular lineup. The tough one to evaluate here is the brown weather that ends up in this third spot, one that has a nice shape to his rib. He's got a lot of body. I still think one that from a muscle standpoint is acceptable. Just a little bit softer, a little bit plainer there to the touch, a little plainer in terms of his look up front. He's just a little thicker necked, a little deeper chested, not quite as just attractive in the way that he is built. And then obviously he's just not wanting to cooperate quite as well for that young lady. The one that ends up here in the fourth spot, another solid kind of an animal that ends up in this particular class. I want to see just more shape and just more of an attractive look on this particular goat to work his way out of the fourth spot. But a competitive class, a nice one there to go ahead and lead the way. Go ahead and put your hands together and congratulate these four young people.
In fourth place, Clara Beering. Third place, Jamie Schaefer. Second place, Logan Massey. First place, Addison McWhorter. Our next class of goats with weights between 74 and 79 pounds. We have Eva Stretcher, McCrae Lowndes, Sadie McWhorter, and Thomas Lee.
I think a competitive pair here towards the top end of our next class. And we've got two weathers here. They're very, very different in terms of just what they represent and what their strengths are in this particular class and lineup. And certainly there's a lot of differences between them. The young man's weather here that I've elected to lead off with, I think just in terms of build and quality and freshness is where this one excels in this particular class. Compared to the weather that ends up in second, I like the fact that he runs uphill. He reads to be just a little bit taller there towards the top of his shoulder. I get my hands on him and just a really fresh, nice shape there over his loin, and I probably just prefer the set there to his hip and into his hind leg, the way that he's built and constructed there compared to the one that ends up in the second spot. If I'm going to change him, as I navigate right behind on that guy, I want to open up his pins just a little bit more, maybe just see him just a little bit bolder all the way throughout. He's hard muscled and he's still shapely. I just want to open up this guy's skeleton just a little bit, but he's got a really nice look and build, and I like his feet and legs, especially his hind leg set, to go ahead and lead the way in this particular class. The more powerful one ends up in second. He's probably one, as I read him, right there through the middle portion of his rib and body, he's more expansive. He's really bold in terms of his rib shape. Right from behind, that guy's big out of his pin set. He's really big hipped. He's got a lot of substance and stoutness of feature there as I study him at the ground. I guess for me, he just wants to get a little bit too piecey in the way that he's put together. That's one that's not quite as fresh in terms of his handle. He's not quite as fresh right there over his loin edge. He doesn't just come together quite as neatly constructed right up there at the base of his shoulder and up through his front end as we do in that particular class winner. He is the power goat in this particular class. I didn't feel like he handled it quite well enough to go ahead and capitalize on that to let him go ahead and lead the way. We get into a couple of animals here that end up in third and fourth, and maybe we have just a little bit of a gap here in terms of quality in this particular class. The one that ends up in third, long-bodied and level-topped, I want to see just more muscle and more width and more power. The one that ends up in fourth needs a little bit more shape and power as well. And then also at the same time, we want to fix that one just a little bit in terms of the build of that one's hip and just balance. Competitive class here. Nice job to these four young people. Go ahead and congratulate them.
Fourth place, we have Thomas Lee. Third place, Eva Stretcher. Second place, Sadie McWhorter. McCrae Lown, first place. You running away? Our next class is going to be McCrae Lown, Reed Hegwood, Sage Massey, Sadie McWhorter, and Peyton Monks, with goats weighing between 80 and 85 pounds. My kids who should be waiting are Ashlyn, Paisley, Eva, Jamie, Paisley, and Addison.
really competitive class here. I like this particular set, and nothing to take away from those that end up in fourth and fifth, but I felt like these three were the ones that kind of just grabbed my attention as soon as kind of they walk into the ring and then start to just kind of sort through the differences that I see in these particular animals. The young lady here that leads the way, I think, has the one that's a little bit more ready today for this particular show compared to the one that ends up in second. I think just a really proportionate goat in the way that he's built there from the side. I think everything is just pretty smooth. He balances well. You know, I like him not only on the stand, but I still like that weather when he's out on the lead. And I think he's got some advantages in terms of his skeleton compared to the one that ends up in second, specifically length of hip, how he utilizes his hind leg. I think he's just a little bit more flexible. And then when I get my hands on him, he's probably just a little smoother and a little bit fresher compared to the one that ends up in second today. The 1 and 2, that's about as cool marked as you can make a particular goat. That guy is striking when he comes in. He's got a really neat front end in terms of length of neck. He's flat shoulder. That guy's got just a cool look and just kind of initial impression. I don't think he's quite there yet today. As I get my hands on him, still a little more raw. He's still just a little greener right there in his loin edge. I don't think that guy is just quite 12 o'clock yet. His better days are still yet to come. He's got such just a cool build and look about him, but he's just not quite there. And I'd like to maybe see him also just a little bit more flexible. When I get him out and go, I read him to be just a little bit straight in the weight he's made, really off of either end, but in particular right there out of his hip. But that's a cool one. I think he'll continue to feed for the young man. Congratulations to him. The one that ends up in third is another one here that I probably like better in motion than where he ends up here in this particular kind of a class as he starts to kind of roll up in his top a little bit. He's just a little bit full probably for me in terms of just his body and his flank. Maybe throws his top line off for the young lady and makes him look like he doesn't have the same kind of hip shape as you study him from the side. Just a little bit flatter there in his leg shape. I'd like to just see that one just look a little bit more athletic and handle his top line better when he's set up there on the brace. Again, I like him better out in motion. Maybe that's a little bit of a product of Phil. We might be able to change that on him. I think the next time you get him out and show him if there is another one. The one that ends up here in the fourth spot, long-bodied, I appreciate that. He's got just some extra extension there up through his front end. Just a little bit too green yet. Still, get your hands on him. A little more raw in terms of his edges, a little flatter build all the way through. The one that ends up in the fifth spot is a solid goat in his own right. I think one that still has some shape there to his rib. Natural dimension is okay. Just in terms of this one's balance, he wants to get just a little plainer and coarser there about that one's particular shoulder. Not quite as just sharp and attractive looking as what we find in a few of these other animals in this particular class. But a competitive class there for these 5 young people. Go ahead and congratulate them for their hard work.
In fifth place, we have Reed Hegwood. Fourth place, Sage Massey. Third place, Peyton Monks. Second place, McCrae Lown. First place, Sadie McWhorter. Our next class of goats weighing between 86 and 90 pounds, we have Ashlyn Hegwood, Paisley Urker, Eva Stretcher, Jamie Schaefer, Paisley Urker, Addison McWhorter. On deck waiting should be Jamie, Rebecca, Sadie, and Cody.
we start to approach some heavier weights on these particular animals, and we start to get some goats that are maybe starting to put a little bit more on them in terms of fat and condition. At the same time, we found one here to go ahead and lead the way that's by far just the freshest one in this particular class. And I think a wether still that has just a look of quality about him there from the side and balance as well. I think his biggest advantage compared to the one that ends up in second is just that view right there. I think he's just built better. He's nicer balanced. He handles a little fresher, a little nicer there to the touch. And I think that's why he goes ahead to be the candidate here to lead this particular class. If I'm going to criticize him, I think that's one that starts to get plenty long. Is he just the most opened up and robust one that we've seen today? Probably not, but he's acceptable in those areas. And I think just in terms of quality and freshness excels this particular lineup. The one that ends up in second, just in terms of chest width and rib cage dimension and just natural width and substance, he certainly does a nice job of bringing those attributes to the table. His sacrifice comes a little bit in terms of just his look right up there through his front end, a little bit deeper about his chest, a little plainer in terms of his shape. Like to square that one's hock up just a little bit as well, but a solid kind of a stout meat and potatoes kind of wether there that ends up in that second spot. The painted up one here that ends up in third kind of follows that similar kind of trend in terms of having just some general shape and dimension of body. Another one here that's just opened up in terms of just general width. Like to see that one just a little bit more athletic and a little firmer, a little leaner, a little harder touching. Same thing can be said for the one that comes next. I think there's some similarities between these two. I felt like the painted up animal just kind of held himself together a little bit nicer in terms of balance and proportionality, has the edge over the one that ends up in fourth. The one in fourth, kind of the same mold, general width of body, just has some general dimension, just gets a little too plain in terms of look. Like to pull that one's front end up and level his hip out. The one that ends up coming next, really long-bodied and extended. I want to open this animal up in terms of its rib cage. It just gets too flat. It needs more muscle. Then we end up round off the class here with one that's kind of fighting an injury, and I think one that maybe has probably seen some better days and is hopefully there on the mend for the young lady. Congratulations here to the young kids in this class. Go ahead and put your hands together. Give them a nice round of applause.
In sixth place, we have Ashlyn Hegwood. Fifth place, Eva Stretcher. Fourth place, Paisley Erker. Third place, Paisley Erker. Second place, Addison McWhorter. First place, Jamie Schaefer. Our next class of goats is going to be from 97 to 101 pounds. We have Jamie Schaefer, Rebecca Lee, Sadie McWhorter, and Cody Monks. On deck and waiting should be Leia, Riley, and Caleb. If you have friends or family who are not able to be here this evening for our goat or our lamb show, you can send them a text and tell them to go to showbarnflix.com or Show Barn Flix Facebook or through the Elbert County Fair Facebook, and they can join us for the rest of the evening's classes.
Got two weathers here towards our top end of these heavier weights that I think sort up and do so fairly handily in this particular class. I think both of them really offer some parts and pieces here that you can like and tie into. There's just a few slight differences in terms of kind of balance and build and just kind of look and proportionality that sorts one from two in my particular opinion. I think the one that leads off this class is one that just balances better for me from the side. And the things that I see there just in terms of his lower flank and his lower body, that one has a hip structure there that up high is just built a little square, a little bit more attractive in the way that he's made. I think when I step in on top of him in relation to his weight, still is acceptable in terms of his fat cover. He's still fresh in terms of the way that he handles there over his loin. I think has certainly enough on him in terms of muscularity to kind of complement the other parts that we like and find. Is he just as skinny-necked and as neat-chested as some of them that we've seen so far today? Probably not. He's got more maturity to him. You can see that obviously with his weight. Maybe like to pick him up on those rear pasterns ever so slightly a little bit as well, but I felt like he was the combination whether to go ahead and win this particular class. A really hard muscled one here ends up in second, and I love that about him. That guy's got just a big old loin edge laid into him. The view right there from behind in terms of his pin set, the shape that he has to his stifle is really, really good, and he's lean on top of that. I like all of those things about him. I'd like to just see him kind of come together a little bit better for the young lady here from the side. He just kind of wants to lower his chest and his front end. She's got to work to keep that up. He doesn't have maybe just that tail up, and it throws his hip off a little bit. When you kind of get him out in motion, he wants to suck up more in his rear flank and into his lower body. I'd like to just change a little bit of that proportional look on him from the side. If we can do that, then we can capitalize on that kind of hard muscle and that athletic shape that he's got. He's got some interesting parts and pieces, and I like those parts about him. I just like to see that one just a little bit more complete to go ahead and win this class. The one that ends up in third is just a solid animal in his own right, just in relation to those top two, a little bit plainer in terms of his shape. He's putting on just a little bit more cover. You can start to see that through the floor of his chest. You put your hands on him, just a little bit softer there. Want to see that one leaned up and shaped up. We get into our fourth place animal here, a little bit longer haired, a little harder to look at, just a little bit plainer in terms of that was just general ring appearance and image. Like to maybe see that one just a bit more muscular there, but a competitive class towards the top end, especially with those first two. Congratulations here to the four young kids in this heavier weight class.
In fourth place, we have Rebecca Lee. Third place, Sadie McWhorter. Second place, Cody Monks. First place, Jamie Schaefer. Our next class of goats, weighing from 107 to 112, Lalia Tunick, Riley Tunick, and Caleb Pfeiffer.
got three weathers to sort through here in this heavyweight class, I guess, and we get into a few of them here that come in some different shapes and sizes, if you will. We end up with a couple more predominantly brown weathers here towards the top end that are probably a little bit more similar than they are different. We've got the more traditionally marked one here that kind of ends up in that third spot. But the one that wins, I think sometimes the darker colored animals can be a little bit deceiving from the outside, but when you get right up on top of this one, no question, handles the freshest. He's got the best shape out of any of the three in this particular class, and still gives you a nice enough look there from the side. The one that closely follows him ends up in the second spot just in terms of length and extension. I think one that runs out of gas a little bit compared to this class winner right from behind. He wants to taper a little bit there to his pins and flatten in the base of his leg, but I felt like he kind of complimented the class winner to end up in the second spot. I think his advantages compared to the weather that ends up in third just deal with attractiveness and just kind of show ring presence, if you will. I think one that's just built a little bit better in terms of his balance, the way that one's made up front there through his front end, and his neck comes out of the top of his shoulder, a little flatter shouldered, a little cleaner there in terms of his underline. I think one that just gives you a little nicer profile and look compared to the traditionally marked one here that ends up in third. This guy has some rib shape. He's got some substance and some feature underneath of him, just a little bit plain, a little soft to the touch. Like to lean that one up a little bit for that young man. Congratulations, though, to these three. Go ahead and congratulate them for me.
In third place, we have Caleb Pfeiffer. Second place, Riley Tunick. First place, Leleo Tunick. Our last market class, our heavyweight goat at 117, Caleb Pfeiffer. To all the rest of my kiddos, if you won first or second in your class, please come back up towards the holding pins. And before we go into our Grand Champion Drive again, we would like to thank our premier sponsors, Core Electric Cooperative, Maverick Broadband, our gold sponsors, Farmers State Bank, Wagner Cat, Serenity at Wolf Creek Ranch, GMT Exploration Company, Excel Energy, our silver sponsors, 21st Century Equipment, Cypress Creek Renewables, Kraft Companies, Independence, Mountain View Electric Association, and Potestio Brothers Equipment, 40 Mile Feed for their donation of all the shavings for our show rings, and Zebra Lighting and Production.
Young man brings us a 117-pounder here to wrap up the market portion of our classes. He's got a weather here that really has just some natural dimension, really big loin. He really has an impressive kind of width and shape there to his top, and I think one that just in terms of muscle, certainly no issues from that regard. You know, maybe he's a little bit past 12 o'clock in terms of just freshness and maybe where he could have been at from an ideal look standpoint. He's maybe just a little bit past his prime from that regard, but in terms of the basics of having width and muscle and power, he certainly does that well. Congratulations to him.
Thank you, Caleb. And we're going to bring in our first and second place class winners for our Grand and Reserve Grand Champion Drive. We would also like to thank our buckle sponsors. Our Reserve Grand Champion is donated by Running Creek 4-H Club, and our Grand Champion buckle is by the Heisen Raider family. Thank you for supporting this great class. We would also like to thank our queens and princesses. They've done an amazing job handing out awards tonight, so thank you, ladies, and you look beautiful.
Well, let's go ahead and put your hands together here for the young people that have came out and competed tonight. I think some really outstanding kids, some high-quality show, young men and women, and doing just a really excellent job of getting their animals presented. I think we've got some young people here that are really working on trying to do some of those extra things in terms of getting their animals ready and presented and shown, and it's not always easy, right? It's sometimes a challenge to get these goats to cooperate and show off like maybe ideally how we would want them to, and we understand kind of sometimes that frustration that comes with showing livestock, and that's something that'll make these kids better though and more resilient, and just continue to work with projects. And I know that you kind of come out for this particular moment, and for a couple of young people, they're going to be very, very happy with kind of how things ended up for them, and maybe there's going to be some others that are a little bit more disappointed. But I tell you what, it's really about kind of the journey and the process of getting to this point, or getting to kind of that final show there of the year, and there's a lot of memories to be made throughout the summer, preparing for moments like this where they're able to hopefully think about getting a champion handshake or a reserve, and I think the kids obviously will work hard leading up to the fair, and then it's just a matter of who you get to judge your show, to be quite honest with you. As we go to a lot of shows, you think maybe you have a shot, and maybe you leave thinking, well, maybe we didn't. And sometimes that the opinion of the judge is maybe not the same opinion as you, but that's kind of part of the challenges and the struggles of showing and judging livestock. It is that it is subjective, right? It's not black and white. It's not just a yes or a no. It is subjective to somebody's opinion. I try to describe them to you the best that I can, and honestly, I land on some animals out here that I felt like put the most good together to come out and represent their classes. And now my approach for a championship drive is to find the best animals, the ones that are the hardest to criticize, the ones that are the hardest to fault, and the ones that really rarely give me a bad look. Are they right in terms of their freshness? Are they right in terms of their build and their skeleton and their muscularity? And just simply the highest quality animals, the ones that are the hardest to breed, to make and put together. And I've got my eye on a couple of them that I think are in contention for these particular honors. Nothing to take away from those that maybe don't get the final handshake, because I think that they deserve to be out here, and it's been a competitive show, and I know the kind of work and time that it takes to get animals ready and presented. I'm not going to break all of the animals down to you again. Tried to describe those in their classes. Sometimes I walk away from shows, and if an animal doesn't win a show, and I think back what the judge said about that animal, and if they didn't criticize them at all, then you don't know why you got beat. And whether you agree or not, you simply just like to know, right? And so that's why even on our class winners, when they come out of their classes, I still try to describe them to you and maybe criticize them a little bit as well. So when we get out here into this particular drive, you kind of know how I felt about them. And when they come back out, that opinion doesn't change. It's kind of the same opinion that I had just a few minutes ago. I think there's one particular animal that puts the most good together out here, and in my opinion is the hardest one to fault, to find major criticisms in. There's another one that I think has some pretty out there parts and pieces and is kind of extreme in a few areas, but maybe is a little bit easier for me to pick on and fault in just a couple spots, and ultimately that kind of ends up being a difference here as I make that selection. I know we've got a market lamb show to get into, but let's go ahead and congratulate the kids one more time here, and I'll go show you the two that I like the best.
I'd like to congratulate our reserve grand champion, Jamie Schaefer, with her 97-pound goat. Our grand champion, Sadie McWhorter, with 83-pound goat. Congratulations to our goat class, and thank you all for coming out. I think this is the largest crowd we've ever had for the goat class, and we hope you stay for the lambs.